Okay, let's talk Captain Marvel. Alright, so Captain Marvel, I will openly admit, I knew next to nothing about this character going into the movie, and honestly, I think that actually benefited me very well. I had similar problems with Venom, where I knew so much about the character that just overall, I wound up nitpicking Venom apart to the point that I didn't enjoy it. And Captain Marvel, knowing next to nothing about this character other than her brief back history with the character from the X-Men called Rogue, I think that really benefited me this time around because I didn't go into like over-analytical mode. I wasn't fine-tooth combing anything. I did have like one or two questions throughout the course of the movie, one of which wound up getting answered, and the other one you can kind of piece together on your own. I won't say what those are, just to kind of keep this relatively spoiler-free. But overall, it was an enjoyable movie. It was a very good, very well-told story. Typical Marvel formula, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Decent storytelling with a good amount of comedy and a good amount of action peppered in throughout. So basically, we have... she never really refers to herself as Captain Marvel. Throughout pretty much the first two acts of the movie, she refers to herself as Veers. And she is a Kree warrior, basically part of like a special task force, and they're all kind of under the same mission: find the Skrulls, eliminate them. And the Skrulls were kind of the biggest surprise out of everything in this movie. And that is because, while I don't have a lot of knowledge about Captain Marvel, I do have a good amount of knowledge about the Skrulls. And the Skrulls were played very differently than how they are portrayed in the comics, or even how they've been portrayed in the Marvel animated shows in the past, playing more of refugees without a home type of deal. Not necessarily bad, just on the wrong end of a war type of deal. And for all I know, that could just be the starting point of how they're going to use the Skrulls, because this movie does take place in like the mid-90s, and obviously all the current movies are in our current timeline, 2018, 2019, and stuff like that. So that's a lot of time in between for the Skrulls, you know, kind of like rebuild their forces and go back to the type of enemy we're all used to seeing them be, i.e. stuff like Secret Invasion or the Skrull Empire, conjuring up super soldiers like Super Skrull, who had the abilities of all four members of the Fantastic Four. But for this story, their setting was very, very fitting, because you gotta find a way to paint what is supposed to be the good guys as what we know will eventually be the bad guys in the Kree, because they are not bashful about showing you characters that you have already seen before. Jkun, at least I hope I'm saying that guy's name right, he's part of Veer's task force, and we've seen him as a right-hand man to Ronan the Accuser in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. And speaking of Ronan, we see him too. So you gotta find a way to build up these guys that we know are going to be established bad guys later. And I think that they did that incredibly well. Brie Larson did a good job as Carol Danvers. I will say this, for like the entire first act of the movie, when she was referred to as Veers, I will openly admit I found her very unlikable. Kind of the same way that you would find a uppity teenager that doesn't know any better to be unlikable. She kind of gave off that same impression where they're acting like they know everything, but at the end of the day, they kind of know nothing because they don't even know themselves. But that ultimately played very well into the story as she begins to discover more about herself. And the more she discovers, about who she used to be referred to as like Carol Danvers. She becomes more likable the more she discovers about herself, and I think that was done very, very well. I will openly admit, when I first saw the trailers for this movie, the only thing I was interested in was Goose, the cat. It is no secret that I am a big fan of orange cats. I have two myself. I am a well-established and proud fur daddy. And Goose the cat was definitely one of the big selling points for me in the movie. And every time he's on screen, he is an absolute joy to watch. Especially when you get to dive a little deeper into his personality, I guess you could say. I won't spoil anything for anyone who's going in blind, but definitely keep your eye on Goose, because he is going to make that movie for you. Nick Fury and Agent Coulson. CG is a wonderful thing. Sam has not looked so young in years. He actually looked absolutely fantastic. I think the CG work that they did on him to make him look younger, as well as the CG work that they did on Agent Coulson to make him look younger, was absolutely fantastic. You couldn't really tell that it was CG work. The only reason I could tell is because I knew going in that that's what they did. And you really, really have to look for it. But just at a glance, it's like, damn, he's in his 30s again. Look at that shit. Story-wise, it did have a good, steady progression. I didn't feel like it staggered or stalled anywhere in between the acts. The comedy was definitely on point, punchy, very good delivery. So big shout-outs to everyone, especially Sam Jackson. Sam Jackson had pretty much all the best comedic lines out of the entire movie. With the exception of Talos, who's the leader of the Skrulls in Captain Marvel. Brie Larson also has some very good plucky delivery as well, just not as much as Sam Jackson. Jude Law also does a fantastic job with his character, who is kind of the person who has been training Carol as she's been a Kree warrior. Yeah, I'm going to have to stop there because anything more I say about him is going to be a spoiler. The stern but supporting teacher, I think he handled that role very, very well, wanting her to control her emotions, not act on impulse like he did in the movie. I want you to work with this and not with this type of thing. The whole think before you act type of situation, and I mean, hell, that's something I preach myself. Think before you act, think before you speak type of deal, because going in half-cocked generally never ends up turning out very well. And what Marvel movie would be complete without a couple post-credit stinger scenes? One of them I will not talk about because it is definitely a spoiler. The other one, however, I will openly admit this, because, I mean, let's be fair, by now, if you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War, you're never going to. The Avengers find the pager, and it's a very good fill scene to introduce Captain Marvel to the rest of the surviving Avengers. And I think it was done incredibly well, to the point that I am almost certain what they showed us. I actually looked at my friends while we were in the theater, and I just pointed at the screen. I was like, that's going to be an Endgame. That is actually a scene from Endgame. Because Cap still had a beard, everyone's in the Avengers compound, and, they did the same thing for Ant-Man in Civil War. Ant-Man had a scene at the end of their credits where Falcon and Captain America were sitting there, and they had Bucky, locked down by his arm in, this old dilapidated building, and turns out that scene winds up being in Civil War. So I think that's what they did with this as well. They showed us a scene that was just a little taste of what we're going to be getting next month in Avengers Endgame. Overall, my final verdict for this movie, it's a very hard sell when you have a hero that can do everything that Captain Marvel can do. Being able to fly, having super strength, being able to shoot energy blasts from her hands, being able to go up into space and single-handedly blow up starships. It's kind of in the same guise of heroes like Superman or Green Lantern. They're hard to sell because the amount of what they can do is so out of this world that it makes it hard to look believable on the big screen without it looking corny. And I think Captain Marvel did it very, very well to where you can suspend that disbelief for a little bit, but at the same time, with everything else we've seen in the Marvel Universe, your brain doesn't sit there and go, that's horseshit. They sold it very, very well. The pacing was very good, the comedy was really good, the character development was really good. Would I say it's their strongest outing? No. But in a cinematic universe that Marvel is trying to build, not every movie needs to be on the scale of Avengers Infinity War, which I feel like kind of spoils moviegoers to a point. Once you do something like the Avengers, the common moviegoer is going to expect every movie to be on that kind of a scale, and it really doesn't have to be. You've got to save the big bangs for the big bang movies, like Avengers Endgame, or Age of Ultron, or Infinity War. Stuff like that, the stuff in between, it's okay if you scale it down a little bit. They didn't really scale it down much, but this was not an Avengers scale movie, so you shouldn't expect an Avengers scale kind of entertainment. Expect a single superhero type of entertainment. And I think they pulled that off incredibly well. So my verdict, definitely go see the movie. Especially if you're tied to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you're going to want to know what this character is all about, since it's pretty much a certainty this person is going to be one of the big tipping points for our heroes at Avengers Endgame. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate the support. As always, if you liked what you saw, please hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. That way you always know when I have new content for you to watch. And let me know what you think about Captain Marvel down in the comments below. Did you like the movie, or are you just kind of passing this one by and waiting for Avengers? Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.